I don't think that one technically ends for another half hour.
Yeah, definitely not. Usually we go right into another song. But.
What's funny with that, obviously, there's a little bit of a curveball bluegrass feel there, and I remember with this part and this album in particular, which came out in 2007, it was the last album that I actually read reviews for. Because I remember reading a review for the album on a reputable metal website who said, you know, the album's good, but why do they have to have, you know, these bluegrass sections? There's like a polka part in it. It's like all this, like, why would they do that sort of stuff? And it was so confusing to me because for me, that's the stuff that had us rolling in the practice space, just having so much fun, having a ball, and thematically and arrangement-wise, I was like, that's just the chorus. We play the same chords, same chord structure that's the chorus. We just strum and play, you know, in a walking bass bluegrass fashion. That's actually the thing that makes the most sense on the album. is that shit. Almost any like quirky part that's on the record is somehow like immediately tied to like what's happening within it. And so that's when I was like, I think I'm just done with reviews. And of course, I think that's why, you know, that's kind of when we, back then in 2007, kind of like opened up a door of creativity and just started really having just so much fun. And
mushrooms helped.
what's that?
And the mushrooms helped.
No, for Paul and I, no drugs. For Dusty.
Dusty was a little bit better than I.
No, we have gotten that a lot. What drugs are you guys on?
Yeah, I think we learned that, you know, some people, fun in heavy metal was not allowed by certain people. But we thought it was, I always thought it was interesting that like when you break down, when you like analyze like in that particular sense, like at the time I was kind of in a power metal phase. I was like, you know, that was kind of my thing. I was like, well, Dragon Force is cool and all these, you know, like, a lot of bands. They still are cool, but I would like listen to the chord progressions and I was like, these are just like, you know, country chords, you know. You know, but they're just playing, you know, obviously like they're playing power. You know, like it's all the same
It could be
stuff.
a Weezer song too.
Yeah, it could be a Weezer song. I mean, it's like all this stuff, you know, I think people don't realize is like, you know, there's only so many notes. It's like there's a lot more similarities between like heavy metal or, you know, and pop or country or whatever than people realize. You know, we're all using the same chords sometimes we're using the same chord progressions within a certain key. And just, yeah, it's just a difference in tone and tempo and whatever, and feel. And so I think, you know, Colors was kind of an exploration of that. And that particular song, Into the Sky, the way we did the choruses was really an experiment in how to illustrate that fact, you know, that, hey, and we're from North Carolina, we had to do some bluegrass shit.
Yeah. For example, when I would play, you know, the power tab file at that time for my mom, you know, I was working the bass stuff at that time, you know, I was real meticulous and writing everything out real particularly. She's like, oh, that's great, it sounds like Beethoven's Ninth. You know, and you're like, oh, yeah, you know. In that context, in the MIDI context, you're kind of like, okay, so even going all the way back, I mean, yeah, it's that sort of idea. And what's fun in it is, you know, like in a part like that, we got to not only do the bluegrass variation, not only do, you know, whatever if you want to call it power metal variation, but you got to do, you know, get to do the key change, you know. And I remember we were trying to reference the Mr. Big.
It was 100% Mr. Big. I Want to Be With You, the key change at the end. I always thought it was cool as hell, you know, to shift everything up a minor third or whatever. So totally did that.
Thankfully, we work with an engineer that encourages absurdity as well.
Yeah.
Any idea where we're like, is that cool? He's like, that kicks ass.
Yeah.
Do that.
every record, right?
Well, yeah.
He
I don't
was
remember the
trying to
one
sample
on this album.
I don't
No,
remember.
We had a dinosaur. Wait a second. Wait, do we have a dinosaur on this record?
I don't know if you can sample those. I don't know if there's any audio of dinosaurs around, but we tried probably. But
We tried.
Yeah, we try to have fun with our music. We did one time work with an engineer. We won't mention names, but we did like a key change thing, and he was like, he just put his head in his hands, and we were like, what's going on? What's wrong? He was like, why the key change? And we were like, this guy sucks.
So we try to have fun, of course, first and foremost, and we've been doing this almost 20 years of the band next year. We got an absurd amount of records. I think our next one might be our 10th full length, or this one might have been our 10th.
Yeah.
There's a lot of material. I mean, Nirvana's got 3 records.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's absurd. So
You gotta keep it fresh.
keep it fresh, and we're just always like, we're not trying to do the same things that we've done before. We're always trying to move forward. And even though we might have stuff in our collection where we just went wild, and it's one part after the next for maybe 18 minutes,
Yeah.
if we can think of a particular song. We really, at the core of it, especially now, like I was saying, we're really trying to do more with less, and that leads to really cool stuff because if, again, going back to the way we write music, sometimes, someone comes in with the outline of a lot of stuff. For Blot, the song we played earlier, it was actually, some stuff that I had started, and then Paul came in with this whole file of stuff, and I was like, this is at the same tempo, in the same key. And as I said that was in the middle of a record, sometimes that just happens. All of a sudden, you're just on this wavelength that's 100% the same, and you're just like, how did we get to this place? Oh yeah, we've been writing music for 15 years together.
Yeah, it takes a while to establish that synergy, I guess. But yeah, sometimes it just works out like that. And it's a lot of fun. And I think what I've always thought is like with this kind of music, and hopefully we're kind of living by this. But with metal, it's sort of like you don't have to play by the rules. Nobody's trying to be on the radio. You're not going to get rich doing this. Trust me. So you have this like blank canvas. You can really do whatever you want with it, and that's kind of been the way we've sort of operated the band, and we don't have any fear of trying something new or kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit. To us, that's like, I think that's kind of what we want our legacy to be, is like this band that kind of just didn't give a damn and for better or worse, just kind of went for it. And I think we're going to obviously, continue to do that, I hope. But yeah, I always encourage people that if you want to try to play this kind of music and you want to have like longevity and you want to, feel like you're actually, kind of doing something, just, go for it. Don't feel like you have to stay in a particular box. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of music out there to explore and to take inspiration and influence from. And so I encourage people to do that.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
gotta make the box.
Yeah, make your own box. That's right. And then break,
And then burst
shatter
out.
the walls out loud. Make your own. Just
Blast into space.
keep going. I mean, we definitely would not be doing this for as long as we've done it if we didn't have that mentality. We would have faded away years ago, I'm sure. So, and now we're in a very fortunate position because I think our fans expect us to do what we want. You know what I mean? Which is really cool. So,
Yeah, it's great.
I guess now that's probably all we really all we have to play.
You don't want to play that last bit of absurdity?
No, we didn't really practice that. I don't know. But we do. I do want to kind of open up the floor and just people that ask questions about anything, as long as it's not too personal. Yeah, bring it.
Don't dog on the Carolina Panthers too
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
We got a backup quarterback. We're doing the best we can. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever. Just-
Y'all's team suck too. We don't need to talk about it. Yeah, back here.
I had it's kind of a long-winded thing. I'll try to pare it down. I play bass. I got caught in the guitar pro trap for a long time, where I'd write stuff that's like 3 years beyond my skill level and try
Unplayable.
to catch up to it. I don't know if you guys ever really experienced that.
Every record.
Okay, there it is.
Yeah, that's the thing is that we don't. It's strange, but I mean we don't really like when we're writing. We don't like jam a lot. You know what I mean? We're kind of like working through stuff at home. We get together, we listen to stuff, we move stuff around, we play some like sections together, like the three of us will all have guitars, and a keyboard or something. And we're working through stuff, and Blake's there. It's a lot of like arranging and stuff. And he might play the part individually,
Yeah.
at home. But in the context of what it's going to be like live to play all this stuff, you really don't get a sense until you sit down before a tour.
Yeah.
And you're like, I made a terrible mistake. I've learned all this music. And there was a time, like when we did like Colors, like what we just played, where we went out on tour when the album came out and played all 65 minutes of it. And we just learned it and did it, and we'd never done anything like that before. And we'd never played material like that live. And we just, thankfully we were just kind of young and dumb and went for it. And it was great. But yeah, we do that all the time. Literally all the time. I think that's what's fun is, that you're, like we challenge ourselves in so many different ways, That era, 2007, it was more of like a playability thing, you know what I mean? Like what's, just pushing yourself to do like crazier shit or whatever. And then, where we are now, maybe it's just challenging yourself to, reinvent stuff and like new arrangement ideas, like we did with Block, like simpler idea, but doing more with it. So yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of
Is there-
challenges.
I would echo that. The group I'm in now, we try to do that same thing that you're mentioning with this newer record cycle where you make the most out of a little bit. But I guess my other question is, do you guys ever anymore at least think about how you're going to get to a place, or do you think about the bigger picture? Because that's what I tend to have trouble with. So let's just say, I want the song to go here based on the story, or based on this riff, and then maybe that riff like will be the end. Do you kind of just go, all right, how do we get there? Or do you look at your toolbox and go, what can I throw in there that would be interesting? I know it's probably different per song.
It's,
but
to be honest, yeah, it's always very natural, like the way
It should
we
be,
compose.
yeah.
We don't
That's kind of the on the
force.
spot stuff kind of happens, right?
Exactly.
Like we'll kind of write, maybe Blake he's like the master of transitions and like, whatever.
Getting from one tempo to
subdividing
another
and all
tempo.
that. So he may just like email or show us a drum fill that and then we just write the riff to it, and that kind of happens in sections too.
And then just real quick on your Guitar Pro thing, I think with any like, sort of what I would consider kind of a modern tool Guitar Pro is great. It's great for, we use it to make tab books, we use it to communicate ideas, and so that they're visual, so it's easy to learn. And also it is like, I've definitely written parts, and I usually write them on guitar, and then I tab them out at a certain tempo, and then we put the song together, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, that needs to be like 30 BPMs faster.
yeah, been there.
But guess what? With Guitar Pro, it's a great tool to practice a part as well. So like, I think if you're using it properly, like it's a totally great software, all that stuff is. I think where it goes a little left is, and our engineer we work with has told us, he's had bands come in there with guitar profiles, and they've never played this stuff. The guitar players are like sitting there in the studio where literally time is money, and they're trying to learn riffs, and it's like to me, that's where, you kind of abuse it a little bit. You're using it as a songwriting tool, which is fine, but you're not actually practicing the material.
Yeah.
So, you're not going to be able to play it live. You're not going to be able to track it in the studio in a way that is organic, and you're going to play it a note at a time, because you're unprepared. So I think that's where it goes a little left, but if you're just using it as like I mentioned, a communication tool, a way to kind of practice the material,
Just keep stuff straight.
and keep stuff organized, and use it as an arrangement tool, copy paste here, let's put this section here, totally great. I think it's awesome.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Also, vegan Thanksgiving was great.
Yeah, it was awesome. I'm still recovering from that. I'm surprised y'all are smelling some of this.
What else? We got back. What do we got?
So I'm a lead guitar player, and I use Guitar Pro to write a lot of my stuff. Whenever I write a riff, I always make sure, all right, I need to be able to play this. So, I play it and all that, but I feel like I do more writing on that than actual writing on my instrument. And I'm just wondering, what do you think is like a healthy mix of both?
Well, ultimately, if you're happy with the material, it doesn't matter, you know, if you write it on a keyboard or a saxophone, you know, if you want, like, you know, music is however you create it, to me it doesn't matter, but I think if, you know, if you feel like you're dependent on it, you know, in a way that makes you feel weird or like you're not creating your best stuff, then maybe close the computer up and just like put it away and just sit there with your guitar, you know, maybe sit there with an acoustic guitar, maybe you can really strip it down, you know. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that probably varies from person to person, you know. I don't think I would write with guitar. I would always write on the guitar. But if I'm experimenting with like part writing or harmonies or something like that, absolutely. Like I'll plug the main riff into the Guitar Pro and then start playing around with the other tracks and moving notes around. And so I think, yeah, you just got to find that balance, but it probably varies from person to person. I mean, Dusty doesn't use it at all. I don't think. He just totally writes on guitar, and that works for him.
Send voice notes or
Yeah.
I just recently learned how to record myself, so. Last record I had cool little demos, but yeah, I mean, I'll send like iPhone videos or something.
Yeah, there are no rules to like the means of composing, which is great. You know what I mean? It's awesome. You know, when I started writing stuff on keyboard, and it was like I just saw stuff in a whole different way, and I could translate that to guitar and then back. You know, like it's awesome. Like there's no rules. You know.
I got like a few more things.
Okay.
Quick. How long do you guys practice a day? And I don't mean practice by like your own shit. Like, how often do you guys sit by yourselves and just work?
Zero.
Well, when you were learning, how
A lot.
We were full on. I mean, I can speak for myself. I was a basement dweller
Yeah.
when I was in high school. Yeah, I just came home from school and played.
Yeah.
And when I was in college, I was studying music for a year and a half. I just played, and I didn't know what I was working towards. It's just all I wanted to do. And I've just become such a better player over the years. You know, kind of by the means of necessity of having to go out and play an hour every night. You know, 5 months, 6 months of the year or whatever. Warming up for an hour beforehand. I've had the same routine since I was 20, and that's it. And I've gotten tighter by the people that I've played with in this band and other bands, being in you know all sorts of environments, and I feel like I've gotten better. I can tell. I know that I've gotten better technique and stuff, but I don't sit and drill stuff anymore. The punishment ended.
I feel like I only spent. I was in a band that played like 2 shows a week when I was like 15, so it was just like some really bad death metal band. But and then I met Blake. But I would say right before I joined BT Bam, I had a summer where me and Blake's other band played the Silent Circuit CD release show, and I saw Paul doing all these sweep things. I was like, what the hell is that? So I was trying to learn that. So I'm surprised I didn't break the guitar. I broke a few other things, but I practiced like a lot for probably 2 months and noticed a big difference. And then I had to learn Between the Bear and Me songs. So that was kind of my teacher.
And Dusty learns, like, Dusty's kind of the different. He's naturally musically gifted, in my opinion. Like he just got it in his bones. You know, I mean, he didn't have to. He learns in a different way than like I learned. You know, when I was learning, I was everything was mathematical. You know, learning scales. I approached learning guitar in a very mathematical way, and you know, the metronome was very important. And I was like, okay, I got to cram 4 notes evenly spaced in between this gap, you know, here. So that's how I learned. And I don't know if Dan is similar,
Yeah.
but I don't feel like I had like a lot of natural like music. Nobody in my family plays music. You know, my dad listens to AM talk radio, and so it was, you know, again, I had to learn in a very, very different way. Whereas, you know, Dusty is just like his whole family plays music, so it's just in it. You know, he learns very differently, and it's cool because it creates a cool dynamic between the two of us as guitar players because we have very different styles, and everything. So.
That's my last thing. How do you guys pick your funky instruments? Because like I have sections in my songs where I have like violin or like bongos, some rim shots, like cool stuff like that. I'm trying to squeeze a marimba in there. But like, how do you guys pick them? You know what I mean? Like, how do you
Well,
layer?
for me, and it's another thing where, you know, again, the age-old question I always get asked, how do you write your music? You just always be listening to so much stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you know, when I was in school, I was doing everything from like playing in musicals, Andrew Lloyd Webber stuff, to, you know, playing in jazz quartets, playing in, you know, chamber music ensembles on upright bass, playing in metal bands, playing in fusion bands, and it was just in sponge mode, and I feel like I still am. Like, I'm still trying to absorb everything, you know? So it's like, you know, whether it's, you know, writing a bluegrass section and then a company in Florida being like, you guys need to have the instruments to really do this, you know, and getting 6-string versions of, you know, mandolin and the dobro and the banjo, and then we're like, well, obviously we're going to use these. And even in like non-obvious, that's actually kind of a fun studio thing, is in a non-obvious, you know, that's really like, that song might be the only like full-on bluegrass section that we've written, but we use those instruments on every single record, partly because they cut through so well. You know, we'll do a lot of layering with acoustic, and there's a cool shimmer to it, but like, you know, the song Astral Body, for example, we copied, much to Paul's chagrin, we copied a lot of those lines on banjo, on mandolin.
That whole section, we
That was your
pretty much
hell.
doubled. I was in absolute hell.
But it sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think at one point I had to take my shirt off. I was sweating because you know, it's hard to play that stuff clean. You know,
It has to be perfect because the gain is up so much on the mic,
the microphone,
in
yeah.
the vocal booth.
And you can
You like hear your
breathing
nose
off.
hairs moving. Yeah.
But when you listen to a lot of music, that stuff doesn't sound weird, you know, and I'm from the school of Zappa, so everything sounds right, pretty much, so.
I think way in the back there. Yeah.
First off, you guys have fab.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Any influence in old school shredders? Anybody, Becker, Gilbert?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean,
Perpetual burn, man.
Jason Becker, we still talk about Jason Becker, you know, and he wrote Perpetual Burn when he was like 16, you know what I mean? But, and not only was he just unbelievable, you know, shredder, and, you know, definitely inspired me to kind of learn how to do sweep arpeggios and stuff like that, but he was also just, and still is, miraculously, he's just an incredible musician, you know what I mean? And just that whole era of guys, I think, you know, from him and Marty Friedman, you know, Tony McAlpine, obviously the bigger names, Steve Vai, they really, you know, created, like you know, they're just a huge influence on this whole genre of what we do. You know, like every band you talk to that's in our world that actually can play, they're into that stuff. You know what I mean? And so yeah, like totally, that was my thing back in the day.
Yeah, we grew up with John Petrucci up the street.
Of course,
So,
yeah.
like, it was just-
Never heard of him.
It was shred is huge on Long Island.
Yeah,
I was obsessed with the neoclassical thing, like, you know, hearing Randy Rhoads first, you know. I wanted to play that stuff more than anything. And the older I've gotten, the less I want to play that stuff. Like now, I could sit in a room and watch a Keith Urban DVD and be like,
Yeah.
because the guy's hands are just insane, you know.
but
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'd say my favorite guitar player alive is probably Jerry Cantrell, just because he riffs and has really
Dig
The
it.
beds.
vocal leads, you know.
Petrucci, though, you know, we were fortunate enough to tour with him. The thing about Petrucci, dude, that he digs in. He picks every note like it's the last note he's ever going to play. You know, and to do that and play at that speed is really impressive.
And he
Yeah,
practices all night.
And he,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
and he still, you know, puts in the work, which is really cool. And he took that whole like neoclassical shred thing. He kind of took it to a new level with Dream Theater, obviously, because the music got crazy. You know, it was progressive and really cool. So, but yeah, all those guys are certainly a huge influence on us and our whole genre. But yeah, as you get older, like as we get older, you know, kind of like Dusty, like I still like that stuff, but like, I'm more kind of blown away with, you know, guitar players that are doing a little bit less, you know, honestly. But just the phrasing is really killer, or their tone is really good, or whatever, so.
Yeah, stuff that just crinkles your nose, you're like,
Oh, what do we got over here?
We're gonna start doing the giveaways. You guys
Oh,
wanna do
sure,
some
yeah.
giveaways?
We got some giveaway. Maybe one more question?
Sure.
Do one more.
Let's do a quick one.
Oh, boy.
Who wants to do it?
What we got here?
No, I don't want the pressure, you call
I
it.
got it.
You pick the pressure.
First of all, I wanted to say thank you guys way back in 2008. I know, Dan, you and I come from the same hometown pretty much, Erie, Pennsylvania. Yeah, thank you guys for doing that home show. And
Oh, wow.
second, I remember talking to Blake at that show, and he said something about everything before Alaska, or before Colors, you guys didn't play to a click track on the recordings. I just wanted to know if there was any truth to that. 'Cause
It's a whole lot of truth.
if you listen to Alaska, you'll be able to tell.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is when we try to play those songs live, Blake has to make click tracks.
Click track. Now we play them
live, so he's got to somehow, like, shit, how am I gonna make a click track for this song that has a million different tempos or whatever? You know, click track was like foreign, you know, to me. I didn't really, you get into a studio, you go in and you play, you know. So I mean, our first album was recorded live. A lot of people don't realize that we all was recorded live in a basement with like chainsaws hanging around. You know, and that's a commercially released worldwide album that people paid money for. And, so it's come a long way since then, you know what I mean? But yeah, before Colors, it was pretty raw.
Yeah, and
That's a
I,
lot of pressure with Jamie's dad just standing there smoking cigarettes.
Yeah. The early days of recording were very, very interesting.
yeah. I feel like Jamie should be here to like MC these.
Yeah, we should be probably.
He's here in spirit because he gave me the drum tracks, but
It'd be a lot more hilarious.
he's our 6th member for sure.
I think they're about to
Thanks,
give away,
guys.
I think they're giving away a $100,000